So let's get into it. How high will crude oil prices go? This market has been very high recently, Mikey, actually close to all-time highs that I have data for. Now we're coming off a little bit here on Monday afternoon. We'll see if it's just a straight shot lower to more normal prices in crude. But before digging into the data, how high in your mind could crude oil prices go without being we're going to hold you to this, Mike Butler? If it gets higher than this, then you're screwed. You're going to jail. What would be your guess for how high crude oil prices could go, seeing as we got up to $130 a barrel last week? That was really the high print. If stuff continues to be turbulent between Russia and Ukraine, people are closing down pipelines and there's sanctions on crude oil and its byproducts and everything else. How high do you think it could go in this market?
I think it definitely could go above 130 and sustain above 130. Just given the fact, like you said, we have all this turmoil. There's obviously still demand, a very high demand for crude oil across many different sectors. But really, from a supply and demand standpoint, and we've seen it touch 130 briefly, I think you could see it above there again. There's nothing that's saying it can't really go above there. Or there's obviously resistances or resistance to have a crazy high number, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility given the heightened implied volatility we're seeing in the market as it stands. When's the last time you saw 7-point moves in crude oil every day? I remember the first time I saw a 7-point move.
We saw a $15 one last week. Yeah. We saw a $15 one.
Yeah. I remember I don't know why this is burned into my brain, but I believe it was Thanksgiving 4 or 5 years ago. It was definitely Thanksgiving. I remember opening my phone and I looked at crude and it was down 7 points. I was like, whoa, this is the biggest move I've ever seen. And now it's just it's expected daily, 7 points, whatever.
And I'm glad you rope in. You're so great at roping in the options part of it, and the implied volatility. The options market around crude is saying there's a real likelihood it could get above 130, stay above 130. When implied volatility rises, you see option prices actually kind of even out because the market's saying we have no clue where the hell this market's going to be, and so you'll see calls in the 140 handle, the 150s have premium in there. We're saying, there's, 5, 10, 20% chance they could get up to those levels depending on the day. I want to rope in a little historical data. If you want, you feel free. Some of the stuff we're talking about here today, you can get on a weekly basis in your inbox without having to necessarily watch us. If you go to go.smallexchange.com/light confirmation. You go to that URL, you put your email in, you get some of the stuff that we're going to talk about here today for free in your inbox every single week. But let's chop up this data and have a look at, I think you're exactly right, Mikey, that we could definitely get above 130. We could have a little sustained action. Crude oil has been as high as $145. Now, that being said, it's only been above $100 8% of the time going back to the year 2000. That's the data set that we're working with here. So rarity, but not super rare. 8% is a significant enough number. And you can see here we've been as high as 145. So you're exactly right.
Yeah. And really, I think, if we get up to these levels, I wouldn't expect to stay up there, but that doesn't mean you just, take out a second mortgage and short crude, because you're going to have these spikes and you don't know when they're going to come, and you don't want to be significantly over levered in a product that has a vertical bar like you're seeing right now to the upside.
And what was particularly interesting to me, especially you look in this chunk of, call it 2010, the end of 2009, all the way through 2014, you've got a crude oil market that is dancing back and forth above and below $100 a barrel. It wasn't now. Yeah, you see this one huge shot up to the highs of 145 and then quickly coming down, losing almost $100 in a couple of months there. That's an interesting data point. But what I think Mikey's hitting on, and what I would tend to agree with, is, there are plenty of data points where the market's getting above 100, it's coming back below. And what I looked at is, for all the data points where it got above 100, how many days did it stay up there before coming back below? And on average, it was only 20 days, which is really interesting to me and really kind of hammers home the fact that crude oil prices can get up to 140, 150. So how high they can go, you've got it right there. Of course, they can get as high as they want theoretically, but that's the historical basis. But what I think is more interesting in the long term is I don't think we're just ripping right back down to $60 a barrel. I think we're going to see both sides of this 100 a few times. And while I have longer term, smaller trades that are short crude, Mikey, for the long term, I'm trading both sides of this market around. I mean, just as recently as this morning, I bought the 98 50s and sold 100s. It's not going to be as perfect as that, but trading around 100, I think the volatility is here to stay in this market.
Yeah. And this is what I love about the smalls products, and especially the fact that they're so small that you can take longer term stances, whether it's long or short, and it's not going to break the bank. And it's not going to, I'm talking about like a one lot, like you could hold a short SMO contract for perpetual amount of time, or a long SMO contract, and it's not going to break the bank if you have a mid-sized account between, let's say, 25 and 50K. And that applies for any of these products where you have the ability to take a longer term stance or hedge against larger positions. Maybe you have positions in equities and you're trying to hedge it with some of these day trades or day trading opportunities in SMO, or spree, or whatever it is. You have the ability to do it with these products.